Welcome. I am, as always, your main man, joined today by the author, creator of Valorian from the Forgotten Realms Wrestling. Check that out. One of my longtime, very good friends in real life for going on 1 billion in 2 years now. I'm talking about that man, Kevin Cuff. We're going to be talking to you about a most prestigious, most entertaining, most interesting Kickstarter for a wonderful comic book. I know so many out there in that barbarian horde very much enjoy and endorse comic books. This man is an OB, if you will. We're talking about an original barbarian. Long before the days of YouTube, there was many men that did ride from the hills, and he was amongst them in well-stead fashion. So make sure, if you are a true barbarian horde, if you are not a gruel-eating indigent, jump on there. All you got to do is pledge just $1 and help to realize the fantasy of Oathbound. Get on there today. The Kickstarter link is below. Even right now, you can get it for Oathbound. Support the barbarian horde. Support Valorian. Good. What's wrong with you? Definitely, and we will definitely, additionally from this, be producing more Forgotten Realms Wrestling. If you show that you are not, in fact, jabronis, get out there. Support this man. And we're going to talk a little bit about Oathbound. We're talking about spaghetti western fantasy comics. We're talking about jackalopes. We're talking about goblins. We're talking about heroism. We're talking about ale. So first, let me just go through and tell you, my good friend Kevin here is the writer of this comic book, and his artist is Paul Gorey, who does the penciling and the inking for the first two books they're working on. And book one is very close to being completed, and there's a Kickstarter for you to jump in, financially contribute. All you gotta do is jump in for $1. All I'm saying is go give $1 to support a wonderful cause, and then look, just take a look. All you have to do is take a look on Kickstarter. It's Oathbound. You could just put that right in. You could hit the link I've provided below, and you could go take a look at it and then decide what goal is right for your purse strings, if you will. And you definitely can't go wrong. Just support the man on $1 to get more of this fiction, this fantasy, this wonderful concepts. Kevin is a great role player, gamer, great game master, and certainly someone, if you watch Forgotten Realms Wrestling, that has entertained you worth well more than $1, if you will, baby. Now, he also has Mika Myers doing the lettering, Hedwig Zaldivar is the colorist, and Paula Goulart doing the flats. Alternate cover for issue 1 by Hoyt Silva. Alternate cover for issue 2 by Drew Moss. So I definitely want to see this funded. I don't really do Kickstarters. I've Kickstarted. I'm supporting it. I'm pledging. I'm definitely going to get my issues of Oathbound. We're reading them to my son, who is barbarian for life. We're going to be reading. We're going to be enjoying this exquisite comic book in a very interesting catch of genres. Catch can on the genres, if you will. So, Kevin, why don't you go ahead and start by telling the people in Oathbound who is the main character? Who is that man that's getting that face push, if you will?
Oh, sure, man. Basically, Oathbound is about a character named Cole Jameson. And Cole was an outlaw 20 years prior to where we begin our story of Oathbound. So we start in his past, if you will. And he's there being an outlaw because of the way things have turned out for him. The only way he feels like he can get what's his from the system is by being an outlaw. So that is the man who's getting the face push. And now 20 years later, after his outlaw days, he is a father to a daughter who is turning 15 at the beginning of the comic. So she is becoming a woman. Well, I mean, technically, if you consider 13 the transition, but she's transitioning into womanhood at the beginning of the comic. And of course, that would be exceptionally hard for him to have to deal with, because, you know, what does he know about that? Not much. So he's struggling with being a father, having to raise a daughter on his own. He's also struggling with his identity. Am I a bad person for what I did in the past, or is all of that just in my head? Am I a good person for trying to, you know, raise my daughter? So a lot of questions are brought up, internal struggles for our main character. One of them being he struggles with alcoholism because of things that have happened to him. So sort of a PTSD for him, if you will. And that's our main character. His daughter Viola is also a main character. She is half elven, which speaks to the diversity between her father being human and her mother being elven. She has a struggle going on there because there's not very many half elves in the world of Oathbound. It's almost forbidden to procreate with other races. The mythics is what we call them. So that'd be goblins. Pretty much anything you can imagine in a Dungeons and Dragons setting is there. We might not be able to touch on all of it in the amount of time we have with the issues, but if you can imagine it, it's there. So if you've seen it in a D&D setting, unless it's a specific setting, it's there. And that's pretty much what the first issue is about, is mostly him and his daughter. And there's some goblins and different monsters we touch on, and basically have some fantasy tropes mixed with some Western tropes to give you an overall mix of the story and how we came up with that.
Why don't you tell them a little bit about it? I mean, I've obviously seen many of the panels for the artwork, and the artwork looks wonderful. I know some of you out there follow me on Facebook. Andrew Wood, make sure you do that. And I share a lot of too. Any kind of questions you guys have. We've also seen him on the Raw Immersive Games site. We definitely fully support his artistic and creative endeavors here. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about these mythics, particularly these goblins? And we see goblins with like a Colt in their hand, just looking to get a hold of that man, looking to do them wrong ways. So why don't you kind of tell a little bit about how they sort of bisect into this story, and maybe some of the scoundrelness and villainousness of the hearts of these dark creatures?
Sure. Basically, the way we have the goblins intersecting is there's a mythic war that happens. Well, before that, I actually jumped ahead of myself. The story of the mythic starts in around 1849, given the gold rush. And, of course, there was a lot of prospectors out there in the hills, if you will, searching for gold, looking for their fortune, making their fortunes in California. And they come across a gateway that was sealed by the old gods, because the mythology of Oathbound to some degree has old gods that created monsters, almost like a Greek mythology thing, which I know that both Andrew and I are big fans of Greek mythology and myths in general, and making a mythology real. So, in addressing that as a creator, and I was talking it over with my artist on the book, Paul. We were trying to make a mythology that was rich and detailed without being too, you needing too much information about it. So basically the shtick there is with the mythology is the old gods created every manner of creature until they created man, which was their final creation. And man was most like them. And each god had their own version of man, which accounts for the different races of man. So they were in competition, making their own things, like, well, I made goblins. Oh, well, I made this. Well, I made that. So and in creating, they kind of went overboard in creating things. And then they created man, which was most like them. And they noticed that man was falling victim to some of their other creations that were more monstrous in nature, given that God's particular mood that day. So they said, well, if we want our creations that are most like us to survive and thrive, we need to get these other things away from them. So what they did was they basically made another portal, another dimension for these things to exist in and amongst themselves. And inside that dimension, those things, they waited for years and years, of course, after, the creation of the earth. And one day when the 49ers were prospecting, they come across it. And of course, in an accident, they accidentally unseal this gateway. And from this gateway come forth the mythics, and they enter into the Western world. And people at first aren't sure how to react to them. And some people are it would be almost as if aliens were to land today. There are some people who would be like, oh, well, we welcome them with open arms. Some people like, oh, hell no. And there are going to be some people that are not sure. So that the reaction is much the same as humanity is hard to have faith in other things. So that is the reaction in Oathbound. And then things start transpiring, which we get into later on in the book, to where a general dislike of mythics in general happens, and there's a war between the humans and the mythics. And you have to think this way, like a mythics would not have the same tech level as the humans would. Their tech level is a little different. So they start adapting things that are of this world, like, you know, like as you said, a cult, or just dressing as people would now. That's why you see the goblins all dressed up like they're in the Old West with bowler hats on and stuff. They're trying to fit in their own way, but they don't quite get it all the time. So, and that plays a big part of the story too, because some of them are harmful, and if you read anything that's in there, basically goblins, they will eat humans, because why wouldn't you? If you were a goblin, eat a human? I mean, that sounds delicious. I mean, they will eat elves. The elves are perhaps a delicacy for them. So as is mentioned in the book, so that is something that can happen. You could get eaten. I mean, that's a terrible fate. But I mean, the goblins, when you see goblins, and everybody who plays D&D knows this, there's not just one goblin hanging out anywhere. They're in groups. They roll like the horsemen. There's a bunch of them. Goblins be trying to group get you, put the boots to a man, and make a meal, if you will. So I mean, that's pretty much where the goblins and the other mythics intersect. There's more than just goblins. So I can definitely assure you some crazy fantasy creatures in there.
Well, that's very good. It sounds very interesting. And for those of you out there that like to see the fantasy style and comic books of fantasy style, to reach over to other genres and perhaps ultimately feed back into the role playing and into, you know, the whole various sort of community of artistic expression that we as a community really excel in. I think it's definitely something a lot of you are going to want to read. I can't wait to sit down and just crack this open and read it with my son. I very enthused about this, very much a supporter, not only in providing this, but in financial contributions, if you will, as well. And I definitely hope that you should be. I want you to be, and I want you to know your main man is offering for 4. We spoke of four horsemen, and there is a game where there are 4 horsemen. But what about that man Valorian? And we're going to put a specific pledge option up there, I think. But basically, for anyone that wants to get involved with any of the pledges, you get a pledge to anything, even the $1 pledge, whatever you want to do, and then another $20 on top of it. You'll get into an exclusive one-game session of Forgotten Realms Wrestling with Valorian, and that's what you're really doing, is you're supporting the community, you're helping that, and that's the way that Kevin and I can certainly give you something back. For supporting Oathbound, you get to role play with Valorian, a thing that you will tell your grandchildren, and they will keep living for thousands of years, an epoch, a legacy, a saga of your own family's reality and history. I'm talking about send your character to the Valhalla of RPGs, run by your main man, Forgotten Realms Wrestling. You might get to see that man, Elminster Boogie Woogie, getting a rematch, get his leg broke again. Because that man, Fazal Shambrul, definitely decorated as the champion of Storm Giant strength, if you will, Forgotten Realms title. That man does not wear copper, does not wear bronze, does not wear electrum. There's only one kind of metal that man wears, and that's 16 pounds of Storm Giant gold around his waist. And could you be there? Could you influence the tide of telling of that story? An extra $20 on top of your normal Kickstarting support for Oathbound will definitely get you through the door into Forgotten Realms Wrestling, and I guarantee you have the most interesting time imaginable patented wrestling. And that man Valorian, the man, the master of ale, the man that will throw a two-handed sword at you and doesn't give a damn. The man will ride a spider up a wall and then suplex it and a Darrow both for his own luxurious pleasure. So you can get upon that. Your main man supporting it in the form of the role-playing extravaganza for you. That's going to be up to 4 people. You could jump in, get involved, each with a session of role-playing delight. That means we're going to be doing more sessions of Forgotten Realms Wrestling. If you want to support that, support this, get involved, and we'll get those sessions out with all of y'all. This is definitely what you want to do. And if you don't care about that, just jump on there, look at the Kickstarter, support it. You know, I certainly take it as a big favor to myself. This is a long-time friend of mine, 1,012 years we've been friends. So that is quite some time, much longer than any rest of you have been alive. So you want to support that, and I want to support him. I want to support Oathbound. I'll see quite a bit of it, and it's definitely something I look forward to reading, issue 1 and issue 2. And I would say that, jump on there, just take a look, and if you can't do anything else, just throw a buck on there, because that goes a long way towards getting that ultimate goal realized. And of course, everyone that has supported and that will support Oathbound, both now and in future times, we definitely support. Kevin also has a book that is coming out very recently, or very soon, if you will, at a con. I think your main man is going to be there. What is it, Tidewater Comic Con? I'm going to try to be there. Kevin's going to be there. You might be there. My own Grumsome, he might be there. Who knows? So why don't you show real quick the comic book that will be out there as well, and just tell just a real quick run about that.
This book's called The Elves Adventures, and I'm a co-writer on that with my man Bobby France, who is a great writer and a good friend, and the art on that is done by Rachel Ordway, and the letters by Michael Myers, who also worked on Oathbound. Basically, Elves Adventures is just a bunch of silliness, because as you can tell from Forgotten Realms Wrestling, silliness is something we do enjoy. So Bobby and I basically set out while I was in between books. He was in between. He's taking a break from a book. I was taking a break from a book. I'm like, what is the silliest thing we can do? And we have Elvis kung fu fight aliens, amongst other things, and do a bunch of ridiculous things, because the question we asked ourselves is, how ridiculous can this get and still be feasible, still have a story, and still be fun? And the answer is very ridiculous, because we want to have fun. I mean, that's what comic books are about, fun. Like, you want to have fun. You want to be told a story sometimes, and sometimes you just want some pure silliness, and that's what Elvis is, pure silliness. It's meant to make you laugh. You're supposed to look at it and be like, this is ridiculous but awesome. So I also appreciate my main man having me out here to talk about the comics, because as he said, we have been friends much longer than most barbarians' lifespans, if you will, and we have rolled on many games together. And the more comics I can do, the more time I get to spend role playing. So I don't get very much time right now to role play, because I'm embroiled in so many comics projects that I'm trying to get out and get done, so I can make a living at making comic books. So as soon as that's a possibility, there's definitely there's, your main man has said many times, we need to get the FRW going. I'm like, oh man, I can't. I only have 2 days off this week, and on them 2 days I got to write. I got this comic book to do and this comic book to do. And your main man's always disappointed. He's always like, oh, come on, man, we got to do this. And I was like, I will, as soon as I get to this one point. And he's like, I understand. He's like, go get yours, and then we'll come back for it. So that's what we're trying to do here, is entertain you, and try to entertain you with the comic books as much as he has with the role-playing games, and we're also trying to entertain you with the watching of the role-playing. So I appreciate him having me here today.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And again, everyone get out there, Oathbound, get it today. We got the man who was Arnold Schwarzenegger's favorite role player. That man has definitely brought that Sumerian action to your ass. Get out there, support him. Just take a look. Just take a look and do what you can. You want to get this comic book. You want to read this. You want to get that very first issue. Talk about what an amazing potential and a true, real collector's item to get what hot off the press. Issue 1. There are variant covers available. A variant cover available for issue 1 and issue 2 as well. By additional artists of great integrity and the artistic capacity, if you will, or even if you won't. So it's important to me that we get as many people, as many eyes on the book as possible, as many people available, invested as possible. Like I said, I put the game on the line. You may get to see that 16 pounds of gold storage giant touch yourself, talking about the Fate Rudy championship of the world. You may get to bask in the shot of that man Fazal Shabu Flair. He's going to be buying those bound himself. And supporting, as he would not support Valorian, he will support the man behind Valorian. We know that's Talos's, definitely Talos on color commentary. Return Talos to the color commentary position. What about Mr. McBain? You want to see these wonderful stories unfold? Read another wonderful story. I'm talking about Oathbound. If you're a real barbarian, we're going to see you right there, right now, today. drop down your silver coins, drop down your gold bullion. You raided and took it anyway. What does it matter to you? Just run up on another temple and press slam their clerics off the high vantage point, scaffold match style, aka Ricky Morton, if you will. He can do a job. It doesn't matter to me. He'll be there. Oathbound, remember, just for extra $20 after your pledge, you can get involved in a specific special one session of Forgotten Realms Wrestling if you want to support that brand, that franchise, and the franchise of Oathbound, the man behind Valorian. Support role-playing games, support creativeness, support fantasy, and support those that are outside of that corporate bubble and box. Those are going to be the raw stuff, the real stuff, the stuff that you're going to love, the stuff that you're going to remember, and a great, entertaining, fun time that you can get, oh my God, nowhere else. So we're going to appreciate each and every one of you out there, Barbarian Horde Land, Barbarian Style, and anyone else with any other style that gets upon this, consider your village to be spared for at least one season of harvest before the rating falls upon you again. So that's right, one season while Barbarian rating upon your crops. I feel that that's well worth investment of only $1.
And those of you who pledge, just write in email, because you can email the creators on there. Just write in Horde, and I'll know who you are. So I can inform your main man that these people have donated an extra $20 and do get to do that FRW deal, if you will. And you can come up against the Four Horsemen with Valorian with his own team of 4 dudes, and you will be part of that man's team. You'll get to tag up with the big man, the big 6'8", 320-pound, the largest arms in Faerun, the illustrious Deluskin. The bane of Mr. McBain, if you will. The bane of Mr. McBain. I mean, who else? Who else is a thorn in Bane's side? No one. No one. But Valorian, like the air.
A chaotic terror of lawful pressure. That man, Mr. McBain, cursing, bringing the chain in. And don't you want to see one day when it's Valorian with 16 pounds of Star Giant gold against Mr. McBain? Damn it! Damn it, Mr. McBain! Don't you want to see that main event in the clouds with Helm and with Talos on commentary? I know you do. I know you want to be there. Support Oathbound. Do it now. And thank you, Kevin, for being here and for the Barbarian Horde on your main man's channel.